Hello, my name is Ben Tarlinton and I'm the Head of Department for Social Sciences here at James Nash, and I'd like to take a couple of minutes to introduce what the social sciences and humanities have to offer for you in your senior studies. So we've got 5 options with the social sciences and the humanities. These are ancient and modern history, geography, legal studies, and social and community studies. And you'll hear from each of those teachers in a short moment. So we've got the 4 general choices, which are ancient history, modern history, geography, and legal studies. Social community studies is an applied choice. All of these subjects work to explain how the world works. They're focusing on how we got to where we are now as human beings, what's happening in the world right now, and where we're kind of going. So it's all about trying to figure out what we're doing in the world and what we can do about our future as humans. So the history's designed to explain how we got to where we are now and why the world is the way it is. They really help you to understand human nature and how we function as societies, both for better or for worse, and we can reflect upon our future. Legal studies seeks to explain how a society works right now and to empower you to make changes to our systems and the power structures that maintain our systems in Australia and the world. Geography is the study of human interaction with the world, and if science figures out how the world works, geography is about what are we going to do about it? How do we solve problems for our future? And social and community studies is our applied subject with 2 key purposes. One, to explain key issues in the world and society, and the second is to cover a range of life skills. It's really designed to teach you how to function in the real world after you leave school. So all of our subjects designed to explain how the world works and to make you a valuable human being when you leave school.
Senior Geography and why it's the place for you. Geography is an engaging subject, especially if you're one for questioning the world, how it functions, and what we as humans can do to make life better. Depending on your life's goals or your future career choice, the main jobs that geography prepares you for in the real world would include marine biologist, park ranger, tour guide, pilot, maybe even an urban planner, emergency responder, geologist, or a politician or government policy maker. But what is it about geography that can help you do this? The first topic of study is responding to natural hazards. This is awesome if you love watching earthquakes or volcanoes unfold, or enjoy tracking the spread of disease and predicting its impacts. The second topic of study is planning sustainable places. This topic allows an excursion to Brisbane to analyse its public transport and to hypothesise how to make megacities more functional through effective town planning. Land cover transformations is the third topic, in which the debatable topic of climate change is studied, and a second excursion is taken to a coastal environment to analyse how the coast changes from climate change or human activities. Managing population change is the last unit, in which you study in Year 12, whereby migration and how to support the world's current populations is analysed. Geography is largely a practical subject. We learn the theory and then we practice it through the creation of GIS maps, graphs, field sketches. And then, following this, we analyse what it all means. Geography does prepare you for a lot of employment, especially in regards to ArcGIS, which is a common tool used in a lot of workplaces. Now the scary part. What are the assessments? There are 3 core types that we do: a field report, investigative reports, and a practical knowledge exam. Both reports are self-directed and follow the topics that you yourself want to analyse. Meanwhile, the exams are simply creating a map or graph and analysing what it means.
Hello, I'm Miss Gallagher and I am your senior ancient history teacher. The stories of our past have shaped the way the world is today, and knowing these stories make us informed and active global citizens. Plus a bunch of crazy cool stuff happens in the ancient world that defies imagination, and it's just straight up fun to learn. So if you pick this subject, this is what you're going to be learning. We have 8 units, starting with archaeology. How digging up old stuff helps us understand where we came from and why we didn't know about an arrowhead lodged in one of the most famous mummies until 2001. We move into death, rituals, and funerary customs, how different cultures handled death. Ever heard of a Viking blood eagle? Tibetan sky funerals? Egyptian mummification? Well, you soon will. We then move into personalities. First up we have Hatshepsut, the first female pharaoh of Egypt, and she was a pretty big deal. So why were all of her statues smashed and buried after her death? Alexander the Great conquered everything from Greece to India before the age of 30, one of the most brilliant military strategists in history. But why don't we know where his body is buried? We then move over to the Han Dynasty of China, how one of the major periods of Chinese history ended in lots of murder. Jump forward to the medieval Crusades, the epic tales of religious war between Christian and Muslim nations. And we finish off with the Roman Republic, how one of the first superpowers came to be and how quickly it became a hot mess. Your last focus of study is Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. But was he really brilliant or just super good at using propaganda? Myself and Milo hope to see you in ancient history next year.
Hello, I'm Miss Cruddy and I'm here to talk to you about legal studies subject selection for senior. In senior legal studies, the main focus of our subject is really to understand how the world works from a perspective of government and politics. We do cover a range of different legal areas. We look at criminal law, civil law, we look at human rights. We also look at law reform and governance in Australia. It's a very academic subject, and I would say that it prepares you quite well for university if you get involved in legal studies and give it a go. You don't necessarily need to be heading into a career in law or wanting to study law at university, but I would say that it's quite helpful to really understanding how the world works, how government operates, and how different aspects of society work together. So if you're looking at any job that works in government, it's going to give you a really good grounding for how that all works. If you enjoy watching the news and current affairs, that's probably a good indicator that you'll really enjoy this subject. We do look at grisly murders from time to time, but it doesn't make up the bulk of our subject. So if that's what you are coming for, then you might be a little bit disappointed. All students, I would say, start grade 11 legal studies and drop their marks a little bit because it takes a little bit of time to get used to the criteria and understanding what you need to do to be successful in legal studies. But I see most students' marks go up and up into grade 12 legal studies, and most people can be quite successful in the subject if they are applying themselves. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I would love to see you in legal studies.
The study of modern history is really the study of what is happening every day. Modern history is right now. It works right up until this very moment. So it's all about the questions that are going on in the world right now. So if you're interested in wanting to know why Trump doesn't like China, or why the Middle East is a mess, or what's going on in Brexit, then you really want to pick modern history. So it works really well if you're interested in understanding why the world is the way it is right now, which is going to fit into your journalism, if you're interested in any sort of political science, or even if you're thinking international business, or just merely wanting to understand how we got to the stage that we're in. That's what modern history is going to set you up for. And it's also just kind of interesting. You talk about all the wacky, crazy things people have done. It's all about great heroes and questioning if they're actually that great, and then questioning if the villains they're fighting are actually that bad. It's really all about answering some questions and then giving you guys the skills to be able to answer your own questions. And we do a lot of work around research skills, which are going to set you up for any university degree you do, because it's really going to teach you those skills that you need. In modern history, we do 8 units across year 11 and 12. We start off with imperialism, which is the study of how Europeans pretty well wrecked everything and changed the world more than anything else, and we're still trying to deal with those ramifications now. We then move into the French Revolution, which is how the French people decided they didn't want a king anymore, so they chopped off his head, and then they chopped off the heads of a lot of other people as well, just for good measure. We then move to East Timor, which is one of Australia's closest neighbours, and we look at Australia's shady past with Timor, things like spying on them, stealing their oil, sending in peacekeepers when it suits us, then taking them away again when it doesn't, and the US still doing some shady business dealings with them right now. Then we go to Australia's Indigenous rights movement, which fits in very well with the Black Lives Matter current events. So if you're looking for some understanding about that, that's another good topic. We study the Chinese Revolution, which looks at communism and Chairman Mao, who, in order to make his society equal, killed 80 million of them. And it goes towards describing why China is the way it is now. Then we do a study of Israel, which is one of the biggest messes ever kind of made in the Middle East. We go why the Palestinians are having issues with the Israelis and vice versa, and how do you solve a dispute like that? And is it even solvable? We then move into the Cold War, which is the story of how we almost nuked ourselves to death when the USA and Russia had a contest. And then we finish with Australia's involvement in Vietnam. So Full Metal Jacket, Platoon, Apocalypse Now, all the classics. But we look at what actually happened in Vietnam and what did Australia have to do with it. So modern history is really all about trying to answer big questions about why the world is the way it is, and then it lets us reflect upon where we're going to go to from here.
Hello, I'm Natalie Krause, and I'm going to talk to you about social and community studies, which is our applied subject offered in the social sciences faculty at James Nash. As an applied subject, the good news is we don't have any external assessment. Everything is done in-house, and most of our assessment is very guided and teacher-driven. So there's lots of stages along the way to get you over the line. So what do we study? We look at all different sorts of things that are occurring in the world today, and we look at some vital life skills that you need in order to succeed as adults in our world. So we cover 8 topics over 2 years. Our first one starting with money management, which is really important for you guys heading into that adult world of budgeting and credit card use. We look at all things looking at your rights in regards to how you interact with the police and in society in general. When we look at legally, it could be you. We also look at body art and why body art is a different form of art in our world, and what are some of the stigmas attached to people that have body art on them, and what are some of the things that they struggle with in life as a result of that. We also look at the growing need in our world to communicate digitally. So we look at social media and if social media is actually impacting negatively on our physical relationships. And then we move into Year 12 looking at gender roles and our place in society and Australia's role in the world. So it's a really interesting look at, we start off looking at Gympie locally and what is there in Gympie for our survival and our needs to be met. And then we look at the wider picture of Australia's place in the world and how Australia makes money and where our trade relationships lie and why it's important to read the news and understand that for your own self-benefit and family. So as I've said, it's internally assessed, which makes it a really interesting subject for us to sort of play around in and talk about different issues. We look at a lot of newspaper articles, we listen to a lot of podcasts, and within that gender topic, we actually do a film review. So we look at gender and how gender has changed in the world of film over the course of the past 60 years. So that's a quick little snapshot of social and community studies. I hope to see you there.